The work is done jointly by men and the ocean, a superhuman task that, over 2,000 years, has formed these strange, beautiful, incongruous shapes that extend over more than 2,000 hectares, the Guérande salt marshes. But let's look closer and see how the ocean, sun, wind and men work together to bring us that invaluable asset, considered as a treasure since the dawn of time, Guérande sea salt, le Guérandais. With a movement born of ancient traditions, the salt worker creates a gentle ripple that doesn't remove the clay from the bottom of the pond, but is enough to roll the salt crystals along. The salt worker then uses a la, a sort of rake, to pull the salt towards him. You have to be strong and skillful to handle the la, which has an extraordinarily long handle, nearly 5 meters long. From the ocean, which enters the marsh via the bay, the water flows via canals towards ponds of varying depths. Vasières, primary ponds, corbières, phares, and, finally, the œillets, crystallization ponds, in which the change in level is carefully controlled at the rate of 1 millimeter per meter, so that the water flows gently from one œillet to the next, even with the wind against it. During its long journey, the water temperature gradually rises to over 37 degrees Celsius in the production ponds and concentrates into salt. It's a wonderful spectacle seen from the air. Across 9 communes, from Guérande in the south to Assarac in the north, 190 cooperative salt workers, men and women, most of whom have passed through the training centre set up by the cooperative, work on 7,800 œillets, with an average annual production of 10,000 tonnes. The number of salt marshes being worked has gone up by 20% in the last 20 years. The blue Guérande clay offers undeniable calorific properties. The heat of the day is restored in the evening, making the salt marshes act like hot plates. A fine layer of salt appears on the surface of the œillet. This is the famous flour of salt. It is the result of rapid evaporation caused by the wind, which pushes it into the corners. This salt deposit must be collected very carefully, otherwise the skin breaks and the flour of salt sinks and turns into coarse salt. It is collected with a tool known as a luze, which skims the surface of the water. Like coarse salt, it is rich in magnesium and trace elements. The salt workers transport each harvest from the ladure, pile by the pond, to the trémé, platform, to form a pile of salt known as the moulon. In the past, this was done using a wooden container placed on the head. Having journeyed from the ocean to the œillet, where it has been carefully harvested, the salt is transported inside large buildings to be sheltered from the bad weather of autumn. An incredible landscape of salt dunes gradually rises up, similar to the Shot, or salt deserts, in southern Tunisia. The flour of salt rests in well-ventilated racks where it retains its incomparable flavour. Whatever the quality, tradition, nature et progrès, or label rouge, coarse salt is naturally grey. Each quality has its own set place in the salon, or warehouse. Unlike refined salts, le Guérandais Guérande is not washed and does not undergo chemical treatments involving the addition of additives such as anti-caking agents. It is simply salted and sifted to ensure the consumers are offered consistent quality. Guérande salt is naturally rich in magnesium and a source of calcium, iron and other trace elements. The cooperative storage policy means that its customers and consumers are sure to receive supplies. On average, the storage buildings contain 3 years' sales of gradually draining coarse salt and flour of salt. Formed by the ocean, wind, sun and man, coarse salt is naturally moist. To preserve the pleasure of an authentic salt, coarse salt is simply dried and crushed to obtain fine table salt. Having been harvested using gestures and methods that have hardly changed since the Middle Ages, the Guérandais salt is finally ready for packing. To guarantee the highest quality